Good afternoon, Niner Gang. How are we feeling today? Happy Monday. We had a busy Monday today, haven't we? I think we've had a very, very busy Monday in terms of 49er news and just everything. You got to love it. You got to love days like this because there's so much to talk about. It's a Monday. And usually we're like, okay, it's Monday, beginning of the week. When you start off a week like this with the owners meeting, there's going to be just juicy topics left and right. And today was definitely not a disappointing day in terms of that. So uh, we'll get into it. The 49ers had John Lynch today at the owners meeting, and he spoke about pretty much everything. He talked about Brock Purdy. He talked about Trey Lance. He talked about Brandon Aiyuk. He talked about Colton McKivitz. And he talked about everybody else in between. The kicker, Zane Gonzalez. We got kicker news. We got everything news. And we're going to talk all about it today. So, welcome, everybody. How is everybody feeling today? I hope everybody's had a good weekend. I hope everybody's had a good Monday so far, as good as a Monday can be. But, how the heck is everybody doing today? I'm doing really good, if you want to know. But even better, Brock Purdy. I think he probably was the winner of the day. You know what? Hold on, I'll be right. Oh, yeah, sorry. My phone was acting up. There we go. Sorry. But yeah, I think Brock Purdy definitely was the winner of today. You know, Brock Purdy. Let's get to these tweets. So I'm going to put up a few things. If you guys remember from the weekend, this was Brock Purdy. He got that hinge elbow brace, and, there was a fan that posted a picture of him, and this is Brock. So we finally got an update, according to John Lynch, on Brock Purdy. So let's get to these. Let's see. Oh, yeah. So he said that John Lynch still thinks that Brock Purdy should resume throwing 12 weeks after his surgery. And he says, our hope is he's ready to go for training camp. And he also said that Brock Purdy on the starting quarterback job, well, with the way he's played, Brock Purdy is probably the leader in the clubhouse if he's healthy, right? So he gave an endorsement to him. And he basically was just saying that Brock was the guy. He's going to be their starting quarterback, and he's the leader of the clubhouse as long as there's no injuries, right? So it's March, and we pretty much have found out that Brock Purdy's going to be their guy as long as there's no setbacks. He did say that Trey Lance and Sam Darnold and Brock also would compete. Obviously he does want to make it a competition, but this is no like crazy news to me. This is something we've kind of known. This is what they set us up for. That Brock Purdy's the leader of the clubhouse. And even Trey Lance said this about a month or so ago. He said, during his time with Rich Eisen that he doesn't want the job to be handed to him. He knows that Brock Purdy's the guy. He's the leader. Everything he did this season was amazing. So Brock Purdy, based on what he did last year, will tell you he's the guy. He's the quarterback, right? So you got to give, I think Gloomy says Purdy deserves credit, right? Yeah, 100%. You got to give him his credit. Based on what he did last year, he's the best quarterback in this quarterback room. If you look at who they have, you have Sam Darnold. He's never played for the 49ers. He was on the Panthers last year. He did okay for them, but he's never played in the 49ers system. Trey Lance, unfortunately for him, he ended up his season after week 2 with a season-ending injury, a big-time fracture of the ankle. So it was unfortunate. Jimmy comes in, Brock comes in, and then boom, here comes Brock Purdy, and he was like the savior. So based on, the sample size of last year, he's your quarterback based on what he did. Now, it's not based on the ceiling that any quarterback has. It's based on what they did last year, and it's absolutely correct that Trey Lance, should be behind Brock Purdy right now. It's not a disrespect to him, but the thing that was interesting to me is the 49ers, again, and this is this I think what the third interview they've had between John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, and tomorrow Kyle Shanahan talks. It's the several times they've had to adjust these quarterback situations, and they haven't given Trey Lance the seal of approval. They say he's developing. We need him to get a opportunity. He's got to stay healthy. It's those are the statements they have. They say Brock Purdy's developing, or not Brock Purdy. Trey Lance is developing. We know he's progressing. We like him on the team right now. It's like those blanket statements. This is one of the statements they had. This is what John Lynch says. He says, I like him on the team right now. We always joke, Kyle and I, that we trade each other. If someone gave us a good enough deal, we listen to anything. We like Trey on our team, and we're very excited about the way he's progressing, about his opportunity. I think he's chomping at the bit to get out there and get back and be healthy again. So it's nothing like it's nothing like, oh man, Trey's our guy. We love Trey. It's, yeah, he's on our team right now. Right now. To me, it's interesting. To me, that was the most interesting part of that whole, John Lynch media session is didn't really commit to Trey. I don't know. And you can call me crazy. And he did say this too. He says, we're still excited about Trey. We're still very excited about Trey. But I think the way Brock played, he probably has earned that right to be the guy. But it's certainly a competition. We will always have that. And again, these are decisions Kyle makes, but I know in our discussions, this is the way we're talking. So it does sound to me that, yeah, okay, they're going to have a competition. But John Lynch has made it clear that Brock's the guy, right? No matter what, Brock's the guy right now based on what he did last year. But again, it doesn't give you like a sense of approval for Trey Lance. So to me, I kind of get this vibe that if the opportunity presents itself, if the 49ers get some really amazing offer for Trey Lance, they wouldn't turn it down. Like they might trade Trey Lance. Like I'm not saying they will. I'm not saying they should. I'm not saying if it's the best thing for the team. I think that they are willing to trade Trey Lance if they get the right opportunity, the right offer. Again, they always look to improve their team. If they're that committed to Brock Purdy and they think he's going to be healthy at the beginning of the season, I think they're okay with letting Trey go. And it's, I think it would be okay for Trey because I'm sure he wants to play. I'm sure he's going to do everything in his power to be as good as he can this offseason and come into training camp and kill it. But if a team doesn't want you, they should trade you. I love Trey and his ability and his potential, but I just have this feeling that the 49ers might make a draft day trade, right? I think he definitely deserves a chance and his opportunity. But again, today on what John Lynch has said, it does seem like they're setting it up. Just get that vibe. That's the vibe I get. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm reading the room wrong. Again, you're going to give Trey Lance the keys to the Ferrari here in training camp and see what he has. But you still know that Brock Purdy's your guy. So even if Brock Purdy doesn't come back healthy week 1, week 2, to me, they're telling us whenever Brock Purdy's coming back, he's going to be your quarterback. So it's a weird position for Trey Lance to be, So then you have to ask, and this is the question Panda says, what do you think Trey's value is? And that's a good question. You have to realize if you're a team that's wanting to trade Trey Lance, you have to look at the value of him based on this quarterback class right now in the NFL, right? Because if you're taking Trey Lance, he's still a raw prospect. He's still basically a young quarterback in the league. Was he 22? You're basically thinking that he's in the draft. He's a quarterback coming out of the draft. So you have to rank him on your board. Where do the teams value Trey Lance? Do they value him higher than any of these quarterbacks? Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, Richardson, and Will Levis. Is he better than those guys? That's what the GM would have to think about in terms of getting rid of Trey Lance. So it's a very complex situation. You have to look at what teams, maybe you want a draft pick and a player, a really good draft pick, and a low draft pick. Maybe you get a first rounder. If you don't get a first rounder, if you're getting only a second rounder, maybe you also get a player involved. So it really depends. But supply and demand of a quarterback is very, very complex because teams are willing to pay a lot for a quarterback. We saw what Carolina did when they traded up for, just for the number 1 pick in the draft, right? With the Bears, because the Bears are cool with Justin Fields. So they're like, cool, we'll trade you the number 1 pick. And they got a lot in return. They got a good player. They got first round draft picks. They got a lot in return. So you got to realize Trey has the ceiling. He has this potential. And if you think he's better than some of those quarterbacks coming back in the draft, you have to parlay that and try to get the maximum value. So it's possible the 49ers can trade Trey Lance. It's very interesting because, again, the 49ers making it, to me, it makes it clear that Brock Purdy's their guy. Brock Purdy is their guy. So we'll see whether the fans think so or not. And it's tough because I know there's a lot of fans that say, well, Brock Purdy's a one-hit wonder. He only played 8 games last year, blah, blah, blah. But he won games. And the fans want to win games. The 49ers want to win games. It's a win-now team. Your roster's set to win now. You don't know how many years you're going to have left to Kittle and Aiyuk and Deebo and all these guys, Bosa and Warren, all these guys at their peak of their powers. It's interesting to see because if you want to win now, who gives you the best opportunity? And then they also brought in Sam Darnold, and he's not trash. He's not an elite player, but he's a guy that could be your backup. Sam Darnold, to me, is a QB2. So if he comes into training camp and he shows that he can pick up the offense, he could be a solid QB2 to Brock Purdy. And again, Keeping Trey might make it to where it's like a weird situation. I don't know. I get this vibe that they're going to trade Trey, but I could be completely wrong. And if they keep him, it's going to be a hell of a training camp competition. But I don't know. Just based on what Trey Lance comments were made in John Lynch's press conference today, that's the vibe I'm getting. Again, we'll see how this happens. We'll see what happens. But you can get a lot out of Trey Lance in a draft package. I know he hasn't really done a lot to justify that, but he has the talent. And there are teams that could look at Trey and say, hey, look, he has that ability like Josh Allen. Maybe we can be the team that turns him around. You never know. Young quarterbacks are still a hot commodity in this league. So, again, that's all I'm saying is there is a potential for them to maybe trade him based on, the fact that they're committing to Brock Purdy. And, Brock Purdy deserves, the credit he's getting from John Lynch and everybody. He had a hell of a season last year. But again, now we have to figure out, will he be the same quarterback? And that's a big question mark. So maybe that's why they would keep Trey, to make sure he can be that safety blanket. Is Sam Darnold going to be your safety blanket, or is Trey Lance going to be your safety blanket? Because we still don't know 100% if Brock Purdy is going to be 100% when the start of the season goes. How is he going to throw? Is he going to still throw as good as he was last year? That's something to be, to be determined. Now, I hope he heals good. I hope he recovers well. I hope he doesn't have any setbacks, but you just never know with anybody in terms of rehab. So Brock Purdy is recovering with a physical therapist out in Arizona who has a lot of experience with, UCL injuries with pitchers. So I think he's in good hands. So we'll see. We shall see. Let's take a look at some of the questions here, the comments, as we continue to move along. Let's see. The chat is going crazy with the Brock Purdy, Trey Lance, and all this news. I think fans are all over the place. We don't know what's going to happen, right? Randy says Purdy was the better than most quarterbacks last season. It's true. He was a very, very good quarterback. Obviously, teams didn't have a lot of film on him to prepare, so we'll see how that continues. Can he continue to take that leap in, year two and whatnot moving forward? That's a big question, in terms of quarterbacks and how they can continue to improve. But he was a heck of a quarterback. He was an offensive rookie of the year candidate. I mean, you got to give him his flowers. I mean, people can hate on him or whatnot, but Brock Purdy had a very, very good season. I mean, not just for a rookie, for anybody. The guy was the 7th round pick, the last pick in the draft. And I mean, he exceeded expectations like nobody's business. So, we'll see. Again, you got to base it on last year, and he won some money games. The game he came in, Jimmy goes down, Miami, right? That was a big game. Everybody was hyping on Miami. He beat Tom Brady and not the Patriots, but the Buccaneers. That was a big game. Nobody had really beaten Tom Brady up in that point as a rookie making the first start. So that's a big spot to be in. I know the Buccaneers weren't the greatest team last year, but that was still a big game for any quarterback, especially a rookie 7th round pick, last pick of the draft. So playoffs, he won some playoff games, Unfortunately, it ended in the NFC Championship game. But even Javon Hargrave says that it would have been a whole different game had Brock Purdy been healthy. So it's not a disrespect to Trey. I think they're just not enough. We just don't know what Trey can do in this league. And he does need to play. Trey Lance needs to start. He needs to develop. He needs to make sure he can play. But will he get that opportunity with the 49ers? I don't know. Only time will tell. And I think that is the big question for the 49ers to say, hey, look, maybe we think Trey Lance can be good in two more years or a year because of their window of where they're at. It's a tough position. Like, do you want to put Trey Lance in this position where he still has to sit for 2 more years, where you can maybe get something out of him? Whatever the value you can get, you might get something. So 49ers have a lot of questions and a lot to think about in terms of the quarterback position. It's an honest assessment, and this is based on what, John Lynch said today. And I don't think it's controversial. I think people are getting really hung up on his words and getting upset and making it a house divided. He said stuff that Trey Lance has said, last month. Again, Trey Lance agreed with everything John Lynch says. He said everything that Lynch said about Brock Purdy. He says, hey, he came in, he was amazing, he was a baller. I got to earn this spot. There's nothing wrong with what John Lynch said today. I think he kept it 100. He was very honest, and I think that's what it was, is the 49ers are very honest with the fans, and the fans are always expecting something else. And then they take these words and they're just so frustrated. But the 49ers are very honest. They have said the same thing over and over, over these last couple of weeks. And I like that. I value the honesty, man. But I do think, again, going back to these comments, is John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, for that matter, they haven't really given the stamp of approval to Trey Lance. That, to me, is the biggest takeaway out of all of this. We'll see what Kyle Shanahan says tomorrow. Kyle Shanahan will be speaking on Tuesday to the media. So that'll be interesting. We'll see. Will he say the same thing as John Lynch? Will he say something different? Obviously, I think he'll say the same thing because there should be a unified front. And I think we're going to continue to hear that, Brock's the guy based on last year. We like Trey, but, I want to know what Kyle specifically has to say about Trey Lance. That's a good indicator of where they're kind of moving in the situation. And Sam Darnold, he's the wild card. Not enough people are talking about Sam Darnold. I really think the 49ers are happy with having Sam Darnold in this team because I think they feel he could be a viable QB2. Let's see. Let's get to some other questions. I know this is a good topic right here. So Swaggy says it would suck to trade Lance and he turns out to be great. He just needs a fair chance. And again, I absolutely agree. He needs the opportunity, and that's the risk you take of trading anybody, that you trade a guy and then he just goes off and he plays up to his potential. And he does need that chance. And I feel like maybe that's why the 49ers would trade him. They know it. They don't want to stunt his development. He deserves a start. He deserves a chance. He deserves a fresh place to go out there and then make his name. Again, I don't know if it's going to be with the 49ers because they're so committed to Brock Purdy. But at the same time, you don't want what happened last year to happen again, the injuries. And that's the scary thing for Niner fans is every year we get these injuries and we're like, oh, my God, if we only would have kept Trey Lance. But you're right. If you trade Trey, then he goes to another team and he lives up to that potential. Like maybe he could be the next Josh Allen. I don't know. It would suck. But again, you'd be happy for Trey because he needs that opportunity to see if he can hit that ceiling. I think he could be a good quarterback. I don't know if it's going to be with the 49ers. It's tough. So we'll get back to this topic. Well, I want to switch gears real quick. What's the news with BA? Brandon Aiyuk, man. What do you guys think? Brandon Aiyuk today. So this was pretty much news we expected to get, that the 49ers will be picking up the 5th-year option on Brandon Aiyuk. That's something we pretty much expected. It's not due until May 1st, so they have a couple more weeks to actually exercise it, but they do plan on it. That's what John Lynch told us. And, he's a hell of a receiver. He even tweeted himself last week that he was a 1,000-yard receiver as the 4th option on a running first team, man. Like, this guy was amazing. We all know Brandon Aiyuk is amazing. We all know how good his talent is. We know that if he was on another team, wide receiver 1, he'd be getting 1,500 yards. Like, if he was on the Chiefs side, let's be honest, he'd be best wide receiver in the league. It's crazy. His route running is absolutely amazing. Like, the guy is a stud, flat out stud. I love Brandon Aiyuk, man. This guy is a dog. He's only going to get better. You could tell just the way he's training, just how much he's putting in, how much effort he's doing. The guy's a stud, man. The guy's a flat-out dog. So 49ers will put in the 5th-year option that keeps him here till 2024. That means he'll get $14 million and some change guaranteed next year. This year, his cap hit's like $3.9 million, so not much. And again, he is going to come out this season and go crazy and try to get his numbers up. He's on a contract year. Let's basically put it that way. Now, the question remains is, would the 49ers trade him? I know there's been a lot of speculation. So today there was a report from Nick Wagner of ESPN that the 49ers have got a lot of people calling about Brandon Aiyuk. This was per John Lynch. Like, there are teams interested in Brandon Aiyuk. Of course they would be, right? Why wouldn't you be? Let's see. So this is the tweet. It says the 49ers have received interest in Brandon Aiyuk. They want to, from teams hoping they can trade for him. It says the Niners intend to keep Aiyuk. Now, this part of the tweet is interesting. It says they could find themselves in a situation next offseason where they can't afford to sign 2 high-end wide receivers, just like OT this year, and those decisions will and can be made in the future. So it's important to note that, okay, they have received interest from teams trying to trade him, but obviously he's a great receiver. Teams should be looking after Brandon Aiyuk, like as they should. This guy's a hell of a player. He's a hell of a player. And teams definitely would want his services because, again, he is the 4th option. Maybe teams can be like, oh, my God, he's the best receiver compared to anybody in the draft. That's the way the teams start looking at it going into the draft. So you get a guy like Brandon Aiyuk. He's so good, so talented. He'd be better than any receiver coming out right now because he'd be a day one superstar player on your team. 49ers might get some trade offers, but they already said, according to the tweet, that they're not interested in trading him. That's the key, right? Now, that's a different situation from the Trey Lance tweet from earlier, is when they said, we like him on the team right now, but they didn't say anything else of, we're not going to trade him right now. Like, that's the difference, is where Brandon Aiyuk, they gave you a stance on it saying, we're not going to trade him. There still is an open-ended kind of comment with the Trey Lance situation. So, again, I still think that could happen. We'll see. But Brandon Aiyuk, they're not moving him this year. It gives them an extra year to kind of figure out this extension. But it does make next season interesting, where they are going to have their money tied to two wide receivers, possibly Deebo and Brandon Aiyuk. Would they keep them both? That's when it gets interesting next season. Will the 49ers be able to keep both receivers? I don't know. That's a tough question. Then you have to ask yourself, who would the 49ers rather keep, Brandon Aiyuk or Deebo Samuel? We all know Deebo Samuel is the tone setter. He's that kind of guy that, revs the engine. He's the kickstarter, of the offense. Everything kind of is dictated through Deebo and his ability in this offense. But again, he kind of plays at a high level. He plays at a very physical level, a very physical level. And can he sustain that? I don't know. Brandon Aiyuk's game is much different. He's a pure wide receiver. He's got the route running tree down like nobody's business. So it's a whole different ballgame. And again, he is a wide receiver in terms of he could go up and catch those deep passes. He can throw it. You can put him on the X. He can run any route. The guy is just a different type of receiver. And in the 49ers offense, both of them are used very different. Deebo Samuel in the 49ers offense is so special. Like, he's a unicorn in this offense. I don't know if he'd be able to do that on another team. So, again, though, he has this special ability to play at this high physical level. I don't know. Teams would definitely love Deebo. He's got the name, draws attraction. He's that swagger type guy, a good clubhouse leader. He's a dog, man. Deebo is definitely a good player. He's going to get paid, for 2 more seasons. Next year, when Brandon Aiyuk's contract's, a big topic, will they be able to keep him? Because if he has another season like he did this year, his price is going to be crazy. He might be getting paid more than Deebo Samuel. Can they keep them both? I don't know. I think maybe next year there may be some trade talk with Deebo and Aiyuk. It's going to get interesting. But for now, the 49ers are going to pick up the 5th-year option on Brandon Aiyuk, and they will not be trading him. So that's very good news. I mean, if I'm John Lynch, if I hear a GM calling me, hey, how's it going, John? Yeah, this is Brian Daboll from the Giants. Is Brandon Aiyuk available? As soon as I hear the word Brandon Aiyuk, I'm dropping the phone, clicking, I'm hanging up. We're not doing that. We're not doing it. I don't know. I don't want to trade him. Swaggy says BA's going for another 1K season. I hope so. We'll see. Swaggy says that Deebo underperformed this season. I agree, he did. Unfortunately, he did. But we talked about this many times. I feel he didn't get to train enough last year because of the contract situation. He didn't come into camp at the best shape, in his peak shape, but he still was training as much as he could, just not at the level that he could, because he was afraid of getting injured and he didn't want to get hurt going into contract negotiations and signing an extension. So it was a weird situation for Deebo, but I think that he'll be bouncing back this year. So, hey, Peter Parker says Parag will work his magic and keep these guys together. I hope you're right, man. Yeah, Raul says Deebo for sure went downhill. I agree. He did go downhill. I'm not going to disagree and say he was a legend this year, but he still showed that he could be a big part of this team, man. When they were, when they played Seattle, I mean, that game, he turned it around when he absolutely needed to in the playoffs, right? Twisted his leg. He said, all right, screw it. Give me the ball. And then he popped off for like that big, it was like a 70-yard touchdown. So, I mean, Deebo still showed that he could be a big force to this team. Again, he's like the straw that stirs the drink. I've said that many times. He's still so important to this team. I love Deebo, man. Personally, you know me, Deebo, I love the guy. Go way back. He's a dog. But I think next year, if you had to, I'm asking you this question. If it comes down to it and the 49ers can't afford to keep both, which I agree with Peter Parker, I hope they are able to keep those two guys together. Who would you take? Would you keep Brandon Aiyuk? Would you keep Deebo Samuel? It's tough. Like, in my heart, I love Deebo, but I know that Brandon Aiyuk, by that point next year, he'll have probably surpassed Deebo. It's such a tough question, man. It's tough. This is a good way of putting it. Erica says, I wouldn't say Deebo went downhill. He just didn't progress as much this past season. Yeah, and again, that goes back to training. Just wasn't able to train because he was afraid of getting hurt and messing up his contract. And that's why sometimes these long contract situations are frustrating. And I think that's where Deebo was frustrated last year. He just wanted to get it done with. And the 49ers are going to drag it out. His agent was going to play hardball. So it's a tough situation, these contract negotiations. Again, Brandon Aiyuk knows where he's at right now. He knows he's going to go out there and ball out, and he wants to get paid. But the 49ers are going to sit back. They'll give him his fifth-year option and say, hey, look, earn your money, and we'll pay you eventually. So we'll see. It's definitely an interesting situation with the 49ers and the wide receivers. So Slatty, my man says, Raj, I sparked that Purdy pack and forgot I was on live. It's all good. You guys feel free to comment what you want. Keep it PG, try not to kill each other out in the comments, but I feel it. Again, I'm not going to sit here and tell you not to feel a certain way about Brock Purdy or Trey Lance or Sam Darnold for that matter. We're all fans. We all have a feeling. Like, there's no wrong answer. There's no wrong opinion. We all have our opinions. Like, I see where John Lynch is coming, with this quarterback situation. Like, I get it. Based on last year, if you take all three quarterbacks and you base who's the leader of the clubhouse based on what they did last year with the 49ers, you'd be crazy to think that John Lynch is wrong. Brock Purdy is your leader. Now, does Trey Lance have that ability? Does he have that talent? Does he have that ceiling? Obviously, he's such a raw prospect. I love Trey and the potential he brings to the 49ers. But we got to win a Super Bowl within the next 2 years with this team. We all want to win a Super Bowl. Can Trey Lance take you to the Super Bowl? I don't know. And it's hard to sit there and gamble on it. I don't know. He might, and maybe he will, and maybe he takes there and silences the haters. But if he can't, and if he doesn't, and he's not ready, then you got to go with Brock. Because I feel like he's that guy that can get you there. He won games. He's a lot more polished. He's more developed. So I feel like that's where the 49ers are in on this. And I know that a lot of people will say, like Slatty says, Purdy is just a young Jimmy G. He might be. You're absolutely right. That's the first thing I said the first day he came on this team and he played against Miami. I remember I was sitting here live and I'm going, Purdy reminds me of Jimmy G. He's a young Jimmy G. But I feel like he has more mobility than Jimmy did. And that's a big thing. If you watch his college tape, if you watch his film in college, he did a lot of mobility. He had a lot of mobility. He'd, run those little bootlegs and he can, scramble around, So he has that vibe to him. It's not that he's horrible with mobility. He can escape the rush, Lives on the edge a little bit. But I like Trey Lance, man. He does have that beautiful deep pass. He's got so much potential. But again, how long do you wait for potential to rise to the top? You don't know, man. And again, he had a setback last year with the injury, and I think that really stunned his development. I think that's the biggest thing. Is I love Trey, man, but that injury last year really stunted his growth in terms of development as a quarterback. That's the way I see it. So this is the way I feel, Peter Parker. Brock, Trey, I don't care. I want a Super Bowl. That's it, man. Whoever's the quarterback, we're all going to be happy for. We're all going to be happy for. So Panda says, at the end of the day, if it's Purdy, Lance, or even Darnold, I'm cheering my team. We need to win. That's it, man. See, you guys get the vibe. Y'all are smart. That's exactly how I see it. As a fan of this team, that's the way I see it. Now, based on the business decision, Brock Purdy got paid $900K last year. He doesn't get paid a lot of money. So you're probably smart. Then maybe that's what John Lynch is saying. Hey, look, we love what Brock Purdy did last year. We love what he did last year. He's only worth we only have to pay him $900K right now. For the next couple of years, you're getting a discount with Brock Purdy. You're getting an absolute discount. That could be another issue, is they're trying to make sure they keep all their players. You want to keep Brandon Aiyuk, right? You want to keep Nick Bosa, right? You want to keep these players. You got to cut corners at some areas. And quarterback right now is an area you can't. Because remember when, the 49ers reported, that they got Sam Darnold? We were sitting here, saying after that, the 49ers only have $13 million invested in the quarterback group. Again, a lot of these teams that get young quarterbacks, they do it so they can develop their quarterback, their franchise quarterback, and they can bring in free agents. They can extend key players. They do it so they can build a team around a quarterback that doesn't cost a lot of money. And then eventually they have to, extend them when the time comes. But, you want to take advantage of a quarterback on that rookie contract. And to me, Brock Purdy, he's the cheapest one of all of them. And if he's the one that can win games, he may not be better than Trey Lance. Like, this is what you got to say. He may not be better than Trey Lance. He may not have a higher ceiling. Whatever. If you want to paint it however you want to paint it, at the end of the day, he's cheaper than Trey Lance, and you win games. It's proven. He proved last year he could win games. Now, I know it's a short sample size, and I feel like a lot of Niner fans get the PTSD from Jimmy Garoppolo because they paid him a lot of money after 5 games, and that's what it was. It was, oh, my God, here comes Jimmy Garoppolo. He's the guy. Let's pay him 5 games he won. Let's give him the bag. He's our franchise quarterback. And at that point, it was a different situation, though. So we had we had nobody on our team, and it was just you're trying to establish yourself. So, okay, we got our quarterback figured out. Finally, thank God. And then he gets hurt, and then the rest is history. Now, that is so scary because what's to say Brock Purdy can't get healthy? And if you commit to him and you get rid of Trey Lance, you're going to be like, oh, my God, what's the issue? So I feel like there's just a lot of PTSD with Niner fans. So it's tough, man. Again, I agree with you, Slatty. I do want to see Trey get an opportunity, but I don't know. If they've already committed to Brock, to me, you don't want to rock the boat. I feel like the less drama, the better. Because, again, if they keep Trey on this roster and they have Brock Purdy all season, we're going to have – they got to start Brock. They got to start Trey. There's going to be a divided fan base. And I think they've seen enough of that. But we'll see how it goes. We'll see. But I don't know. Again, Brandon Aiyuk, definitely don't feel like they're going to trade him. Trey Lance, we'll see. See what else is up there. Did we talk about this? Oh, yeah, Brock Purdy. We talked about resuming throwing. We talked about how he's the leader in the clubhouse. Did we talk about this? Oh, we didn't talk about this yet. Let's talk about this. Let's see. If the season started today, John Lynch made it sound like Colton McKivitz would be the 49ers starting right tackle. They did acquire Matt Pryor today, a new guy on the offensive line, and he looks like a good swing tackle candidate. This is according to David Lombardi. He started 24 games over the 4 seasons, including 9 starts last year. He's played every position except center on the offensive line. So it's a guy that's very versatile, we should say. He can play them all. He's a jack of all trades, master of none. He's a guy that Kyle Shanahan likes to have. He's the type of guy that the 49ers have. Those Swiss Army knife guys. Dan Brunskill, he left. So now you got Feliciano. You got this guy, Matt Pryor. He may not be the greatest offensive line, but he's a big dude. The guy's a big guy. He's a big hog molly. And, the 49ers, they played the Eagles, and they had some big-ass dudes on that O-line. So I feel like they're trying to fortify the trenches with these tree trunk guys, right? Tree trunk guys. So I definitely feel that the 49ers are making sure they're addressing this offensive line with depth, players that can compete. Again, it tells me that McKivitz is probably going to be your starter, which he's the wild card, but if he pans out, you got a big dub on your hand because he's going to be a lot cheaper than Mike McGlinchey. And if he's as good as McGlinchey or better, that's a dub, man. That's an absolute dub. Now, I don't know, though, if he's going to be that guy. So now you got Matt Pryor, who can compete with him in camp. Maybe they still draft a guy. And then you have another guy in Jalen Moore, who's going to have a lot of competition. I'm not sold on Jalen Moore as the swing tackle. Maybe Matt Pryor can be that guy. But again, if they don't draft a guy in the draft, at least you have a veteran. If you don't draft the right tackle in the draft, I should say, at least you'll have a veteran, a guy that knows, the NFL. He's been in the league for a few years. He's a big guy, and he gives you some competition. So I don't think it's a horrible move. It's what the 49ers did. They add depth pieces this year that could come in and compete. Will he make the 53-man roster? We'll see. I think he has a better chance right now than Jalen Moore. That's just my opinion. And he can be a swing tackle. So we'll see. And he can play multiple spots on the line. So if the 49ers have some injuries, he's a guy you can plug and play and be a spot starter. So, but I will say this. The 49ers will be very critical. 49er fans, I know we're going to be critical on offensive linemen because we don't want to see any more bad O-line play. We don't want to see our quarterbacks get hurt. I'm just a little worried about Colton McKivitz, but I'm telling you, man, I feel like he could pan out and he could be the biggest dub of the offseason. We'll see. I'm still a little skeptical on Colton McKivitz. Let's see what else is out there today. We talked about this on whether it's possible the 49ers would trade Trey Lance. John Lynch said, "We listen to anything, but we like Trey on our team right now. We're excited. We're very excited about the way he's progressing, about his opportunity. I think he's chomping at the bit to get back out there. So didn't really shoot it down. Didn't really say they're going to trade it. They didn't say they're not. So we'll see. I don't know. Just keep an eye on the Trey Lance stuff. I don't know. I just got off a show with Larry Krueger before this, and he made some good points. I really feel that it could be a draft day trade, but I don't know. We'll see. We talked about the 5th-year option, Brandon Aiyuk. We did talk about Colton McKivitz. We talked about that. John Lynch and Brock Purdy. We talked about that. We talked about everything. It looks like the one thing we didn't talk about was Zane Gonzalez. We didn't bring up that yet. So the 49ers did trade for a kicker, Zane Gonzalez. It was a conditional 7th-round pick. They swapped picks. We got him for nothing. He has no guaranteed money due to him. So the 49ers still might put themselves in position to go draft a kicker in the offseason, in the draft next month for the offseason in order to have a camp battle. So we'll see what happens with the kicker spot. But I don't know. I don't think Zane Gonzalez is guaranteed to be your kicker. I think they still might get a guy undrafted or drafted. Whether it happens remains to be seen. But I still think that they're going to go after a kicker next month in April, at the draft. So I feel like they're going to have this little competition. And again, you didn't give any guaranteed money to Zane. You didn't have to do anything specific to go get him, like trade a player. He gets a 7th-round conditional pick in 2025. And his money's not guaranteed. So I feel like the 49ers still are not done with kicker. There was something John Lynch said. Let me see. I don't think I saved the tweet on this live, but I do have what he said. This is exactly, let me see what I have. Let me find it. He said about Zane Gonzalez that, where did he say? Where was it? Oh, yeah. So that the trade for Zane Gonzalez was a move at kicker, not the move at kicker, not the move. It's just a move for a kicker, not the move. So it says special teams coaches have liked Gonzalez's skill set, and the 49ers liked the contracts, so they traded for it prior to a pending release. So again, it's not the move at kicker. It's a move at kicker. We'll see what happens. So we will see. I still don't think the 49ers are done in the kicker department. We'll see. Let's get to some of your questions here as we continue to go over today's news. My man Ramelia in the building. Rudy, we got the Ramelia Rams fans in the building. I gotta love Rams fans, man. They always hop in because they love to hear what's going on with the 49ers. So they love us. The Rams fans love the Niners. Shout out to the Rams fans in the chat. You gotta love it. Let's see. Slatty says, John Lynch is so stuck in his head, he's acting like the team owner. Well, he's the general manager. He manages. So he has a lot to say. But again, I wanted to see what Kyle Shanahan has to say tomorrow. Excited to see what Kyle has to say. Panda says, can we put to rest the Lamar to the Bay, or is there still a chance? Now, let's talk about Lamar, right? Let's talk about Lamar. And then I see Kevin Richards' question. He says, does this mean a possibility for Robbie Gould reunion? I want to get to that. So let's get to Panda's question. Does this put to rest Lamar to the Bay, or is there still a chance? I think there's still going to be rumors of Lamar to the Bay, obviously. But I think it does make it sound like the 49ers are not intending to trade for Lamar. I think they're really trying to be all in on Brock Purdy. That's their guy, just depending on if he's healthy. Now, let's say it's a couple weeks from now, a couple months from now, and his elbow is just not going to be right. Knock on wood that's not the case. That, maybe there's a report that comes out and Brock Purdy may not be the guy we thought. Maybe he's not. Maybe he's having some setbacks or something. In that case, then, yeah, maybe the 49ers pick up the phone and say, hey, if Lamar's still available, is he still available to you guys? Is he still there? So I think that it depends on the Brock Purdy situation. Now, if he's, not going to be ready for the season, if he's going to be hurt, then you got to kind of walk around and say, okay, what's our next option? Because it feels like to me they want a guy that's going to come in and just be able to win games with this team. So again, they don't want to get a project, it sounds like to me. So maybe in that sense, they might make that trade if Brock Purdy's just not, at the point where we think he's going to be ready. But again, I don't think there's a high chance. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people that rumor it. There's going to be a lot of people that say the Niners should still go and get Lamar. Now, the problem with getting Lamar is he's going to be expensive. If you get Lamar, there may be a possibility you can bring back Nick Bosa, or you may have to get rid of Nick Bosa, or Brandon Aiyuk, right? Or something like that. You're going to have to trade future first. So you just have to think about the grand scheme of things. Like, yeah, maybe getting Lamar would be awesome. He'd be great quarterback. He's an MVP, all that good stuff. But the players you'd have to give up potentially might be a bigger loss than anything, than even trying to get Lamar. Because if they had to get rid of Bosa, or you can't get Bosa back because of you have to go for Lamar, then you have to really kind of look at yourself in the mirror and say, is it even worth it if we lose Bosa? So I don't know. Is there a chance? I'm sure there's still a chance. I don't think it's a very high chance. But I don't think that Lamar to the Bay rumors are going to die down, Pablo. So we'll see. Let's see. Some more. I think, Kevin says, does this mean that there's a possibility for a Robbie Gold reunion? I'm sure there still is because, again, they haven't closed the door on kickers. Again, this is according to that report from earlier, is that Zane Gonzalez is a kicker, not the kicker. So I'm sure that they're trying to put pressure maybe on Robbie and saying, hey, look, man, the door's still open. Please come. But he's got to have to take a little bit of a salary dump. He's not going to have to come in at the rate he wants to pay. So that's, to me, I think the 49ers, maybe they're playing a little bit of hardball. I don't know. It's interesting to kind of think because these are some things that people are, I think Dave Lombardi even said that the 49ers are trying to play hardball with Robbie Gould. In my eyes, I don't see it. I think that Robbie has said many times he wants to stay close to family. His family's in Chicago. To me, I don't see it. To me, I think that the Niners are saying, hey, look, we got a kicker, but we still can go into the draft and get a guy and have a cheaper option. Because, again, what do we talk about? The 49ers have to cut costs here and there. They still need to make sure that they can pay Bosa and, Brandon Aiyuk in the future now. So those are things they have to consider in the future. And is it worth going to spend $4 or $5 million in a kicker? Probably not. I don't know. I mean, Robbie Gould is amazing. I love him in the playoffs. But you got to cut some corners here and there. And sometimes you're going to have to, get a younger kicker and develop them. And hopefully that pans out. So is there a chance Robbie Gould comes back to the team? I'm sure there's a small chance. I'm sure the Niners have reached out to him and said, hey, look, how's free agency going? It's not going good. Hey, come back to the Bay. But, everything has to match up right. I'm sure that Robbie's going to wait till after the draft, maybe. At this point, he doesn't need to be. He's not pressed to sign on anybody. Nobody's knocking down the door to get a kicker right now. People are worried about the draft. If these kickers don't get drafted, they'll circle back to some of the free agents that are available, and Robbie's going to be one of those guys. So maybe in a few weeks, maybe in a few months, they'll come back to Robbie and say, hey, look, did you find a job? If you haven't, we'd love to have you back. We didn't draft a kicker. Let's find a number that matches. So we'll see. Again, if I had to bet, I don't think Robbie Gould is coming back to the Niners, but we'll see. Erica says Robbie is 40 and at the peak of his potential. I think they should draft a kicker. And I agree with you. I love Robbie Gould. 40 years old, though. I don't know if he's going to be, he's not going to get better at the position. His leg's just going to get a little tired. But again, he's so clutch in the playoffs. That's where you want to make sure he's, on your team for it in those big, pressure cooker situations. Love the guy. But I agree. Go get a young buck. Go get a kicker. It's going to be a lot cheaper. And hopefully he pans out. But it is a lot of pressure on any kicker because, Robbie Gould is just special in the playoffs. But Robbie Gould's not going to be playing forever. So at some point, you got to move on. And I think this is the year that we do. So, yeah, Mimi says, I'd rather pick up Moody, a lot cheaper. I agree. Go with the cheaper guy that could become the next franchise kicker in the NFL. You never know. Mimi says, no, hell no. Lamar's not the same player in the past 2 seasons. Definitely hasn't been that guy. So I think that's why when people say trade for Lamar, that's what they bring up is he's been injured. He hasn't really had a good success in the playoffs. You can make a debate of yes or no on Lamar. But a lot of people that say no to Lamar, they give it the same reason is he just hasn't been the same player over the last 2 seasons. So Jose says, so it seems like we're going to draft a kicker. Yeah, it does seem like it. Overall. So we'll see. We'll see. Let's see what Slatty he says. We can keep Deebo and BA pay BA next season, then PA Deebo the season after. We'll see. It could definitely, there's definitely a way for the 49ers to keep these things moving in the right direction over the next few years with their players. You got to do salary cap gymnastics. You can, there's a roster spots that you can, mess around with in terms of contract. Arik Armstead, you can give him an extension, and that would create some cap space. You can, do some cap gymnastics with Fred Warner like you did this year. George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey. There's still some contracts you can kind of mess around with. Trent Williams. So I don't think that the writing's on the wall yet with any of these players like BA and Deebo. Right now, it does seem like, oh my God, would we be able to keep them both? But if they absolutely wanted to, I'm sure they can find ways. Kyle Juszczyk, his contract's coming up soon, so maybe they either, do something with that contract too. So there's ways the 49ers can always, if they really want you on this team, they'll find a way. They'll find a way to keep you around. So we'll see. I don't know. I think that's pretty much all of it. So we did talk about, obviously, Brock Purdy is committed, or the 49ers have committed to Brock Purdy to be their quarterback one. We talked about Trey Lance. I don't know. They haven't really given him a stamp of approval. They really haven't given Trey that, man, we really are rallying behind Trey. It's just, we like him. He's progressing. So we'll see how it goes with Trey. And again, Sam Darnold is just there to compete. That's what the theme of Sam Darnold is. Brandon Aiyuk picking up his 5th-year option. Great news on that. And, maybe we'll see what happens in the future because teams have been looking into Brandon Aiyuk. So that was something we talked about today. Zane Gonzalez, he's not the kicker. He's a kicker. They still might be looking at the kicker market. They did finally get some more depth on the offensive line. Matt Pryor, he's probably going to push Jalen Moore for competition on the swing tackle role. I mean, not the craziest signing, but again, 49ers, you ask and you shall receive. That you guys have been asking for offensive line depth, and they got it. They got Feliciano last week, Matt Pryor this week. I feel like the 49ers are addressing all their needs right now in free agency, and they're setting up themselves to be in position to draft the best available players in the draft next month. So overall, I think the 49ers have had a hell of an offseason. It's been entertaining, that's for sure. Appreciate you, Ramelia. Take care, man. Deebo is the golden child, says Randy. Erica says this should be a good quarterback competition. I agree. Let's see. Are you close or have you finished your mock draft? Maybe I missed it. Haven't got to the mock draft yet. Hopefully pretty soon here. Maybe tomorrow or tonight or tomorrow we should have it ready. So we'll be doing that first mock draft. Looking forward to that. So Mimi says, bang, bang, that not like button. Appreciate that. Make sure you hit that like button. Kevin says, who's the opposite side edge rusher we were looking for to plug in the front seven? I think that they really want Drake Jackson to be that guy, but, you do have Clelin Ferrell who can kind of step in. They took Austin Bryant. I don't expect him to be that guy. I really think they're going to put a lot of expectations on Drake Jackson, but we'll see what they do in the draft. If they go get like a big-time moneymaker in the draft, that could be the guy. They might trade up. Again, they could trade up to take an edge rusher. I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure. But I still think that they really want to put in a lot of emphasis on Drake Jackson taking that leap this year. Because you got to realize, you had Sam Womack, right, this year. I think they're going to want him to take up a big role this year also at that cornerback spot. Just like last year, you had Talanoa Hufanga and Aaron Banks. They stepped up, and Diamante Lenore. They were all second-year players, and they really came into their own, and they became starters on this team. And now you have that this year with Drake Jackson and Sam Womack, guys that I think that they really want to come in, establish themselves as a starter on this team. Hey, we drafted you. Show us why we did. Take that leap and become a big starter. So I think it's going to be Drake Jackson. I don't know. I think that if he continues to work on himself, he's going to be the guy. But it'll be interesting. So my man Peter Parker says he should have taken over full-time after that Houston game. I think you guys are talking about Trey Lance back in 2021. I agree with you guys. I said it. I remember getting like crazy hate, getting like desecrated by Niner fans because I went live. I think I tweeted it. Start Trey Lance. This is crazy because Jimmy was hurt. And, here comes Trey. He comes in, wins the game. If they don't win that game, they don't make the playoffs. And I said from here on out, just start Trey. Start the development. It is what it is. Go ahead and develop the guy. And they did it. And I feel like because they waited so long to start him, he's just been so behind in development. And then, of course, the injury. It's just it's been a weird situation for Trey since he came into the team. And then, yes, last year, his first game, I mean, that Chicago game, man, it was a monsoon. It just was, I don't know. I feel bad for Trey. I do feel bad for Trey because I don't know if he's really gotten a fair shot at it. And again, I feel like this team knows their window is so small that they just might mess around and trade Trey Lance. Again, it's just the vibe I got this weird feeling. That's the feeling I get today after hearing and seeing the videos of John Lynch today. Again, I'm just saying this. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm not telling you it should happen. I'm not telling you that Trey Lance sucks, because I know there's the Trey fans out there. I know there's the Brock fans. I'm a 49ers fan. Whoever starts at quarterback, I'm cool with. But I just get this weird vibe that there might be a trade on draft day. We'll see. I might be absolutely completely wrong. But I'm probably not the first person or the last person you're going to hear with this take. So make sure I put in a good word for Trey. I will. Don't worry about it. I will talk to John Lynch tonight. Yeah, hey, what's up, John? Yeah, we'll talk later about Trey. Okay. Anyways, y'all have a good rest of your day. I appreciate y'all for hopping in. We'll talk a little bit more. And I think we covered everything as it should today. Hope you guys have a good rest of your Monday. Make sure you hit that like button. And we'll get back to you later. I'll probably be live a little bit later on Instagram. And remember, Wednesday, got live with Wayne Breezy. We'll be talking about everything up until that point. Tomorrow, Kyle Shanahan meets with the media. So that'll be a nice, juicy day as well as for information. And then also today, I was live with Larry Krueger. So go check the Larry Krueger show. We just did a show about an hour ago. So you can hear more of what I have to say on that show and hear the great Larry Krueger talk. But I appreciate you guys. It's been real. Have a good rest of your day. Bang, bang. Not a gang.